question. It's also related to the mortgage. I'm a first year assistant professor. So when I look into to your presentations, I think, how can I steal the great ideas from all these three experts? So my question is, if you were in my position as a first year assistant professor here, how would you nurture and foster the entrepreneurship for your students when they are in the program?
Having been in that role and understanding that paying a mortgage was very difficult. Teaching at Rutgers, I had to drive an hour and a half one way to be in a house I could afford to live in. You know, I remember those days very vividly. But when you're working, I think as an assistant professor, you have a very special connection to the students, not just the fact, with all due respect to our more senior faculty, you're closer to their experience in life in terms of how they will see you. And you may have fresher memories of the pain they went through, you went through, they're going through. So that, I think, brings a special set of qualities to the table and freshness to those qualities. In terms of building in the entrepreneurship into your academic work, one can feed on the other. When you design work processes that involve teams of students, that involve going out into the real world, not that the universities aren't the real world, but going out beyond that with the teen parents and others, that will take on a life of its own. That will spur other entrepreneurial activities and ideas. But the more you make the education for them real as to what their hopes and dreams are, I think the more that will spread like kudzu, and you'll find you've got a real entrepreneurial culture being developed.
I'm not sure that I have much to offer on that.
Yeah.
Are you asking more for yourself or inculcating that in the students?
I'm asking for how may I do in terms of my teaching, helping the students for nurturing and fostering their entrepreneurship.
Oh, I can give another example that I'll help them. I'll help you out a bit more with that. One of the things that we did is to elaborate a bit more on the structure of the doctoral students working with the masters, working with the undergraduates, is in the counseling practicum, which I was also in charge of, as well as the group process series. We would have, each student was able to create, within certain bounds, at certain quality dimensions, a sense of the entrepreneurial spirit as they did their supervision and work. So they had their checklist of what they had to do, but they were given certain bounds of freedom within their assignment to be able to experiment, be able to bring new activities to the front, and be able to approach their group work with the students they were supervising in different ways. And while it never sacrificed on quality, actually it enhanced quality, it allowed each of them to look at new and creative ways to do what was on that checklist that they had to do. So that's another way to do it.
Thank you.
I would maybe add to that just an example. Dr. Peterson used to teach a class, organizational development. What was the class?
Consultation and organizational development.
Consultation and organizational development. And are y'all familiar with ALEC, the Adult Learning and Evaluation Center? It hasn't always been in the College of Education. Do you know that? It hasn't always been a part of the College of Education. It was in Dr. Peterson's class. We had to do a project working with an organization, and I was doing a practicum at the Adult Learning Center. At that time, it was in another department that had nothing to do with psychological evaluations. It was led by a master's level person who did not do evaluations, and had a psychologist who consulted, came in once a week to consult. And I configured an idea and said it ought to be in College of Education with the resources there and so on and so forth. And that became the seed for why ALEC is over here. But I think, to me, that was sort of a neat experience, you know, to be able to play a small part in in developing something that's, you know, had I been out there, I would have made some money on it. You know?
Got one more.
Sure.
I'll give you actually a couple more because your question is so important to these students and to you, I can tell. One of the things that I did at Cincinnati was in designing the group curriculum. I designed it in a way that it went from intro to group to small group, large group, intergroup, to group consultation, to group therapy. And students from psychiatry, business, OBOD, psychology, psychiatric nursing, counseling, education, all could take part in it. So in each of those courses, there were opportunities to do applied work. So for example, in the consultation project, we took them on an automobile dealership of all things. They wanted to change their ranking in the region to become #1 in the region. So the students in that course and I went in and totally redesigned the business. And they had a 3-year window to gain that in. They met that window in 1 year. So the students out of that, they were behaving as entrepreneurs based on knowledge from OBOD and group process and consultation, and being able to apply and integrate all of it. And then that led to articles. But then their education was also enriched by having students involved from other curriculum.
Just let me add one small point is, I would wish that students understood more about how systems work. Students graduate, they don't know the difference between Medicaid and Medicare. They don't understand the Accountable Care Act. They don't understand healthcare reform. They don't understand how protective services work in states for children who are abused and neglected. And gee, I wish they knew more about that. I wish I knew more about that. Because learning it on the fly